Alright guys, a lot of you've been talking about Eden, so I'm gonna do it for you. This is almost 9 minutes, so it's gonna be a long one. I don't know, I feel like you guys said this might have been a hip-hop track, but hey, let's see what it's about. Eden. Ren, here we go.
Let me tell you a story as old as time, the story of Adam and Eve. It starts with a God who wanted more. God had just created the heavens and the earth. He had the angels by his side, but they had no will of their own, and so the autonomy to love or reject him was never theirs. All but for one, the once called bringer
Satan.
of light.
Lucifer.
Lucifer, morning star.
Son of the morning.
Lucifer was the fairest and most intelligent of all the angels. He was the closest thing to God's image, and in his likeliness, Lucifer felt restless. He began to question and doubt God. He doubted the hierarchy opposed upon him. He felt God was arrogant. In his frustration, Lucifer built a throne that stood even above God's and declared mutiny.
I like that he does the overlapped vocals at certain points to almost give that demonic sound. Like if you guys have ever seen the horror movie, and then when the person's like possessed, they have that voice. I like that he adds that thematic element to it.
Gods and declared mutiny. A war ensued. God, being all-powerful, came out the victor and banished Lucifer from the heavens and exiled him to earth. Once again, God was alone with his power. Perhaps from loneliness, perhaps from curiosity, perhaps from a desire to share love, God began to work on his greatest project yet, a being that would mirror himself, the human. Two humans specifically, Adam.
Guys, I like that. So if in the Bible, like he's going through the story of Genesis, and the song's called Eden. So I'm assuming he's going to talk about the Garden of Eden, which is where Adam and Eve lived. Like that was their paradise. That was their domain. That they were supposed to rule over. I like the fact that the Bible doesn't say out of loneliness, curiosity, like. So I think some Christians would probably even say Ren is blaspheming right now and that this is heresy. It's like, well, Ren's speculating about what the intention of God is. And some people would probably be like, oh, no, you can't do that. He's all-knowing. He's all-powerful. You can't speculate about the intention. It's like, well, if you don't speculate about God's larger... If you believe in God, right? Personally, I believe there's something bigger out there. I don't think it's the God of the Judeo-Christian Bible, in my opinion. I'm not trying to start stuff in the comments, guys, but if you do believe in a God, it's like, how do you not speculate about it? Like, to me, it's like that's almost blind trust. Like, that's almost disingenuous faith if you're unable to just question. Life's never brought you down so far that you just question it at the core of its being. I don't mean to get controversial too early, but I feel like what I'm saying is just regular people thoughts. Let's go.
That would mirror himself, the human, two humans specifically, Adam and Eve. They were placed inside a paradise built for them on earth, the Garden of Eden. In the garden, God placed a tree that bared fruit that would grant anyone who ate it powers bestowed only to a God to tell good from evil, left from right, to live righteously or to sin. He named this the tree of knowledge. God told Adam and Eve they could eat whatever they wanted in the garden, but never the fruit from the tree of knowledge. And if they disobeyed him, it would be punishable by death. The basic way the story of Eden is told is that Eve was tempted by Lucifer in the form of a serpent to eat a fruit from the tree of knowledge. Convinced, she bit the fruit, she passed it to Adam, and he did the same. Suddenly, ultimate knowledge.
I like that he says the basic way, because like there's if you guys ever like looked into apologetics and like Christian scholars, there's so many different it's insane to me that like two people who believe, not even two people, you could put 10 people who all believe in the Bible and then all have different interpretations of the Genesis story. I'm not, it's not a bad thing to study it and debate, within any community. If you can't have discourse, well, then at a certain point, you guys need to, ideas need to be challenged. Even all my ideas that I put out on the channel, my little mini rants, I like when they're challenged. Some people get a little disrespectful with it, but most people, even if they disagree, I'd like to see like, hey, hey, I like your content, but I think on this point you might have been a little bit off kilter. I've had I got DM'd about something that I said in Money Game Part 2 about Donald Trump, and so I responded. I was like, hey, thank you for reaching out. I didn't clarify on the video. This is, yeah, so it's I think it's interesting that he puts it out. This is the basic way that the story's told.
The fruit.
And it is. This is the summary.
Suddenly, ultimate knowledge filled their minds, and they realized they were naked and felt shame. God discovered this betrayal and felt anger. He exiled Adam and Eve and cursed them with the life of a mortal. They would work, they would bear children, and they would die. The fate.
Yeah, if you guys didn't know, Adam and Eve actually did work in offices back in 4000 BC or whenever it was. So I got to throw a little comedy in there, guys.
They would work, they would bear children, and they would die. The fate of a human. Now look deeper.
In the story, the serpent tempted me by telling me I would gain ultimate knowledge and that God would spare me.
Both were true.
This wasn't some great deception, meaning that Satan, in the likeliness of God, perhaps understood his intentions. In fact,
The only lie uttered in the
Garden of Eden was
by God, who did not end up
condemning
Adam and Eve to
death.
This could be seen as an act of
Mercy.
Well, hang on. So, but like my theory is like they would have been immortal and then they ate it. Well, let's see where Ren goes with this.
who did not end up
Condemning
Adam and Eve to
death.
This could be seen as an act of
Mercy, but the sheer fact that the tree existed and that humans
were initially cut off from this knowledge.
may imply some part of God was afraid that if humans were granted the gift of perception, they, like Lucifer, would have.
Well, okay, I'm going to address this. It seems like my theory is that Adam and Eve were kind of immortal, supposedly, and then they ate the fruit, and the condemnation of death was just the fact that you're going to age and die. Because if they were made to be in the image of God, God's immortal, so they would have theoretically been immortal. So I don't know exactly. I'm not a Bible scholar, guys, so don't get mad at me, but it seems a little like inconsistent. I wonder how Ren would respond to what I'm saying right now. Let's see where he goes with this, because sometimes there's twists and turns.
Were granted the gift of perception, they, like Lucifer, would have the power to reject him too. The fact that there stood a beautiful tree that could
grant this knowledge in the first place
implies that a small
And if I'm missing something, you guys cue me in, but I don't think I'm missing anything so far.
part of
God, supposedly all-knowing,
perhaps wanted and intended
the humans to
bite too.
In the Bible, Satan was an exiled angel of free will. Humans are exiled
descendants of Adam and Eve.
also with free will. Not only have we shared a similar fate to the devil, we were also both constructed
We
in the
were
image
also
of our
both
Creator,
constructed in the image of our Creator.
meaning our behaviors, in some shape or form, imperfectly echo his.
We could assume that this kind of
God has his
Yeah,
doubts,
but-
but as the most
powerful
Being in the universe,
he has no one above him
to turn to with questions, and no one to
doubt but himself, an incredibly lonely and isolating existence.
We must only assume that the common thread between God, Lucifer,
So, if you guys haven't seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, we've got a little one. She watches it, and we've seen it. But this is kind of what it reminds me like with the visuals, the graphic. It's a really I actually think it's a pretty good movie. Maybe that's just because I've been watching Disney kids movies for the past. That could be a factor in it as well. So. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get hung up on the thing I said earlier. I'm more interested in Ren's larger point, and something he said is, essentially that our actions, since we're made in the image of God and his likeness, that our actions imperfectly echo his. And if you look at the Old Testament of the Judeo-Christian Bible, yeah, I mean, if that's any inkling of a part of what God is, then yeah, we definitely echo that. I mean, God ordered genocide. He said, go kill the women and children of this tribe or this, I forget the exact details, but this happened, multiple times. And there was, the God of the Old Testament in the Judeo-Christian Bible is very different than when Jesus comes and says, okay, we're going to try to, I know, guys, don't drag me out in the street and stone me. When Jesus comes along and says, okay, it's about the love now. And a quick side point, I will say on the Christian thing, as far as when it comes to homosexuality, my problem, I was actually thinking about this 3 days ago, and my problem with the Christian idea that God is against homosexuality, it's like, okay, if you believe Jesus was the coming prophet, he was the big prophet to set the record straight in the flesh, why did Jesus not clearly come out and condemn homosexuality then? Because the God of the Old Testament Bible, it said it's an abomination to humanity. My question then is, why when Jesus comes around, why doesn't he give a clear, it wouldn't have been that hard to say, oh yeah, God believes homosexuality is an abomination. He didn't say that. People focus on these weird things that Jesus said that could be interpreted in 700 different ways, and some people use it as a way to point to. So that's a side note. But that's my confusion with it. If Jesus came to set the record straight for God and say, you know what, the Old Testament is, I'm here to show God's love, forgiveness, redemption. Why, if God didn't want, if God didn't love homosexuals, God, I hope I don't get this shot. I hope I don't think I've said anything too crazy, but if God didn't love homosexuals, why wouldn't Jesus just save the debate for everyone and give a clear statement on it, stating that this is a sin? That's my confusion. I'm ranting on, but I hope you guys at least understand that, I at least try to analyze these different things. I'm not one of those people that shuts down religion. I'm not one of those. Some of the best people I've ever interacted with have been, people who lived a really, really rough and tough life and then became Christians. Now, some of the most annoying, judgmental people I've also met have been people who've been Christians their whole life. So for me, it's more about the individual as opposed to the religion itself. But that's not to say any religion is perfect. But for me, it's more about personal betterment. If you believe in Jesus and you believe he's your savior and he died on the cross, okay, cool. Does it genuinely help you treat people better? Does it help you get through your workday better? Are you judging other people? If so, then maybe you need to. It's that whole verse about look in the eye with the plank before, examine the plank in your own eye before pointing out the speck of dust in another's. Is I think what it is. I'll cut it off here, guys. But let's keep going.
Imperfectly echo his.
We could assume that this kind of
God has his doubts,
but
as the most
powerful
being in the universe
he has no one above him
to turn to with questions, and no one to
doubt but himself, an incredibly lonely and isolating existence.
We must only assume that the common thread between God, Lucifer, and us is the desire for more, an eternal curiosity, a desire perhaps birthed from a seed of loneliness. If not, why would we exist in the first place? The constantly looping bittersweet irony is whether gifted by some omnipotent God or simply a byproduct of billions of years of evolution, here we stand in 2023 as creatures with free will. The only creatures that understand and define good from bad. Creatures with the potential of a God.
Except for dolphins.
Good from bad. Creatures with the potential of a God. And what do we do with that free will, my friends? We willingly walk to the edge of a cliff in the name of progress, we jump off the precipice.
So that's a what song was it? Sickboi. Oh man, we got the warships. It's about to get real up in here, guys. Ooh. He's going heavy with it. Got some destroyers, a lot of destroyers, an aircraft carrier. Okay, guys, let's see where he's going with this. But what was I? Yeah. So he mentioned the way I interpreted it was Greed. That song that he feels like it's not him, it's the world that's sick, because we have everything we need and we continuously want more. And that's what he's talking about throughout this as well, is that now I don't think ambition is bad. I think ambition at the expense of others is where that becomes wrong. Now it's weird, because I'll also say I like competition. But competing and beating somebody and someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to degrade them as a human being. It depends on what the competition is. I won't get into that aspect of it too much, but yeah, he went into pretty good depth. So that's a reminiscent of Sickboi. Let's keep going.
With that free will, my friends, we willingly walk to the edge of a cliff. In the name of progress, we jump off the precipice. The empires we build ravage the earth. The natural order of things are necessary to survive. Any systems which do not honor homeostasis eventually perish. Our free will overrides our own biological instinct. We can take more than we eat. We can kill more than we need. We can willingly create weapons with the potential to burn everything we've built to the ground. We willingly decide to bow at the altar of greed, the most insidious and destructive of all sins. We put our faith in corporations who pose as rulers. We willingly allow ourselves to be led by outdated power systems ran by corrupted politicians and
So he puts the G20 summit up there. Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Donald Trump. Guys, I don't think we should have a president in the U.S. I think we should probably get rid of that office. I think a parliamentary system. I'm not saying that just because I know some Brits are gonna be watching this, guys. I genuinely. So he's got Kim Jong-un up there now. Yeah, let's keep going here. I'm going to rewind it, actually, because I'm really interested in this perspective here.
Put our faith in corporations who pose as rulers. We willingly allow ourselves to be led by outdated power systems ran by corrupted politicians and bloated dictators who claim domain and dominion over an open and free.
So he put Kim Jong-un, Putin, Netanyahu up there. If you guys don't know, Netanyahu's part of the Likud party in Israel, and that's the kind of the right wing. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, please educate me. But my understanding is that that's the right wing party within Israel. So just for anyone who doesn't know.
Dictators who claim domain and dominion over an open and free land.
We willingly elect the corrupted when the decision was always ours to build something better. We willingly create and impose separation because of beliefs that we are force-fed through our phones.
Hang on, I'm backing it up, guys. I want to catch this, okay? I want to analyze what's in front of me, and I missed it. I'm sorry. Forgive me.
We willingly elect the corrupted when the decision was...
Is that Jeremy Corbyn? I feel like I know that guy, but I'm not sure. You guys clue me in.
Always asked to build something better. We willingly create and impose separation because of beliefs that we are force-fed through our phones and television sets. We always had the will to reject these things, but we adhere to them as though they were the laws of physics. War, famine, pestilence, greed, these aren't things imposed upon us by an all-powerful God or by his demonic adversary. They are here because of us, not because of free will, but because of our inability to use it. We must be motivated to be better, not out of fear of punishment of an eternal damnation, but because the choice exists, because we love ourselves, because we have the power to absolve ourselves of so much unnecessary suffering. Take a second to be in this very moment. In this moment, how much suffering is happening all over the planet right now? How many people are dying of illnesses that could have easily been cured, but aren't because of the selfishness and greediness of humanity? How many people break their backs and reject their own passions to simply afford bills and food? How many of us crave distraction from existence?
How many of us reject our own passion and like our own belief systems so that we can eat food? Yeah, interesting. I know I butchered it, but that's kind of the gist of it.
And greediness of humanity. How many people break their backs and reject their own passions to simply afford bills and food? How many of us crave distraction from existence? How many of us numb that pain in whatever way necessary? How many children are being abused? How many people sleep cold and hungry on the streets? How many of
Einstein said, I don't listen to the person with the answers, I listen to the person with the questions. What is Ren doing right now? He's going through a list of questions. He's trying to propagate, he's trying to get thought. He's trying to inspire thought in people. You know, it's important. I mean, I ask a lot of questions, mostly to myself, sometimes on the channel. I'll ask questions, and sometimes people misinterpret the question as me promoting something. It's like, guys, everyone's such a genius nowadays that you can't even ask a question without being accused of promoting something bad or whatever it is. It's like, I won't go on a rant on it, but let's keep going here, guys.
Children are being abused? How many people sleep cold and hungry on the streets? How many of us become cogs inside a machine that is destroying itself? How many soldiers have been forced to fight in meaningless wars? How many humans have killed for ideals they don't believe in or understand? How many people have died for the greed of another man? And how much of this was avoidable? As written in the Bible, Satan was not condemned to hell. Satan was condemned to earth. He lives there amongst other creatures with free will, who always had the choice and still chose their own undoing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our self-made hell. The bittersweet irony is this is a creation of our own design. I'll leave you with this. Consider what you have done here today. You have worked together as individuals collaborating to form a giant neural network, a hive mind capable of achieving incredible things. We have lent on each other's strengths to solve puzzles and decipher riddles, and we've done so to win money. Imagine applying that same spirit and determination to creating the closest thing we have to paradise here on Earth. By using the power of collaboration, we can work together to even the playing field for everybody. Our dystopias can become utopias. Our Jahannams can become Jannah. Our hells can become heaven, right here on Earth. And this sentiment applies to atheists, agnostics, and believers alike. Myself, I'm an agnostic who believes. I believe in us. We must do better because we can choose to. We must be better simply because the option exists. Thank you.
Wait, there's 9 more seconds. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, wow, Ren. You know, I've it's back to the questions thing. You have to ask, you know, why are we all so addicted to technology in our phones? I mean, 1, because it's addicting. 2, how did it become so addicting? They bring in PhD psychologists to analyze iPhone colors, to analyze iPhone UI, to analyze not just iPhone, all of it. Even YouTube, Google, all of these massive tech companies definitely. I'm a big believer in part of what Ren's talking about is that the homeostasis, for those of you who don't know, is essentially kind of like I'm half I can't even use my brain because I'm just trying to process this all. But homeostasis is essentially just kind of things staying the same and more or less the state in which they're supposed to be. I'm a big believer in living a physical life as close to my ancestors as I possibly can. I don't do it because I'm a hippie. I don't do it because, I'm anti-technology. I do it for my mental health, period. Because one of the things you see is, so there's a few different spikes in, quote, mental illnesses within Western societies. The first, I'm not a sociologist. This is my take. There was a rise in it when essentially when there's no regulation whatsoever on things like fast food and food that's sold in grocery stores or in restaurants. And so there's a diet component. People, with the advance of technology that can do work that humans don't have to, humans by default do less work physically. If you think about our ancestors, we might have had to walk 7 miles in a day to go find a blueberry bush, eat the blueberries, and then walk 7 miles back to our camp, or move our camp to the blueberry bush. I mean, there was constant movement. It was a matter of survival. It was a matter of they didn't have cars to drive them around. So for me, I definitely like to try to do more naturalistic things, eat organic, eat healthy. It's incredibly expensive, so sometimes I don't, just because I'm not a freaking millionaire. I'm a working class American. So I definitely like, and then okay, this is scatterbrain. This is super scatterbrain, but because there's a lot of big concepts. I'm sorry if you guys don't want to watch it. I completely understand. But those of you who are still with me, think about technology. I mean, we saw, a study was published recently about the age. It showed a correlation between the age of an individual and the likelihood of having trigger warning, suicidal tendencies, self-harm tendencies, terrible self-image. And what they found is that when the younger that people were introduced to social media, exponentially the amount increased, and specifically the study says it, don't get mad at me, specifically it affected women worse than men. Now, if I'm misinformed, please inform me. I'm fine with being wrong. I'm wrong every day. In fact, most people are wrong every day. I just put my stuff on camera. So there's many different things that are detrimental to our health and our humanity. And so as much as I can, I mean, this is one of the most unnatural things in human evolution and biology. Having a microphone and a camera and recording it and broadcasting it to the world from my bedroom. Very unnatural, not a normal thing to do. But I do it anyway because I do think, I think at some point, there are people who are going to resonate with what I'm saying. And my hope is that I've been in some really dark mental places, and I've made it out of that. And occasionally I get knocked down, and I figure out a way through it, and I figure out all these ways that help me get through it. And I want to give back to the world. I mean, Ren's 1 million subscriber thing hit the nail on the head. Is he said, because I have this platform, I feel a responsibility to do something with it. And so for me, it's the opposite. I made it out of a terrible, like, at some point I'll probably lay it all out on a piece of paper and make a video so that people can actually kind of understand what I've been through. I've lived a little bit of life for a 27-year-old. But for me, definitely, living a natural lifestyle is a big thing. Another thing, once again, super scatterbrain. If you guys are if anyone is still watching this video, you guys are the champions. Because I know a lot of people will probably have exited out by now. So, another thing Ren talked about was how many men have died in wars that for a cause that they don't believe in and they don't fully understand. First thing I think of is when we went into Iraq and Afghanistan. I personally know veterans of that war, and God bless the sacrifices that they made. You want to criticize the veterans? Fine. Okay, that's your right. That's your prerogative. My thing, my thing is like, okay, I'm gonna hold the politician like Dick Cheney, George Bush. They should be tried in an international court of law for war crimes. Along with, let's be honest, most U.S. presidents should be probably tried for war crimes, and if there was any real justice in the world, they'd probably be in prison. Now, that doesn't take away from, because at the time, I can't blame someone for enlisting after 9/11 and doing something that they thought they truly believed in. And now you see veterans of that war who have come out and said, look, that sacrifice, those people dying, their brothers and sisters that they trained with, the men and women that they trained with in the military and went and saw get blown up. I mean, all that's real. The impact that it has on a veteran's mental health is real. And so I'm not one of those people who's just cruel and says, oh, you're a veteran, you participate in violence, therefore, screw your mental health. Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. So I don't think we should have been there. I don't think we should have gone in there. The thing was, oh, there's weapons of mass destruction. Turns out there's no weapons of mass destruction. So why are we still there? I mean, Afghanistan took, 20 years? I've been going on rants, guys. I'm going to wrap this video up, but great video by Ren. I appreciate whoever has stuck around. You guys take care, stay safe, take care of yourselves no matter where you are in the world.